Welcome to the Software Lifecycle Stories podcast. We bring you stories of what worked and sometimes what did not in the course of discovering, designing, developing, delivering, and using software-based solutions, as shared by practitioners who went through these situations. In this conversation, Gayatri shares some of the softer aspects related to transitioning large projects and programs. Then she talks about the personal transformation that she had to go through in helping teams transform their delivery practices. She also shares the concept of work-life balance and how, as a woman, she's been able to do it, and a personal appraisal system that she tried at home. Hi Gayatri, welcome to the show. Thanks for agreeing to be the guest. And I'm sure we have a lot of things to share, even though I've known you for a while. I'm sure there are a lot of stories that I haven't heard yet. So, which should be definitely interesting for our listeners also. So, as usual, you can start with introducing yourself to the guests because you can do that best.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you so much for inviting to this channel, and this is my first podcast that I am doing, and I'm super excited to be part of it. And I'm Gayatri, also referred as G3. It's flows easier on non-native speakers of India, and I have been with this software industry for 20 years plus now, and been with various large organizations. Software organization. Started as a C++ developer and then moved to Java as that was the in thing to do. Between US and India, I kept traveling and then moved to managerial positions, more around project management. And at that point in time, transition management was a big thing, where we were transitioning a huge number of applications into our company, and I did that. And portfolio management was a big thing. So those things I did. And then when I came back to India from Chicago, and then I started getting involved in the sales function of it, pre-sales function of it. It used to be called LEAP, large deals kind of development. Got a handle of that, and then moved to delivery for not so great, I wouldn't say it's a very completely successful transformation story, but that was a major transformation personally to me, and then that made me move towards more agile, and now I'm an agile coach with PM Power Consulting. So I've been a coach for more than 4 years, and 3 years of it is with PM Power Consulting, being purely managing the transformation and being coaching. So it's been a very eventful journey, I would say, so far.
Interesting. I want to particularly explore your transition management a little more. Because that is not something that everybody in the industry gets an opportunity to do, particularly managing large transitions.
Yeah.
While we say software is software and then a machine is machine, moving from one machine to another and all that, what were some of the typical or large challenges that are associated with the transition?
Okay. I think this is back in 2005. 2004, my company had won a very, at that point in time, it was a landmark deal. It was like closer to $500 million in 5 years, right? And while Agile was not very well known, at that point in time, when we were trying to do that itself, we called it waves. So smaller waves, and within that waves, creating a small applications and a lot of applications were kind of grouped based on it used to call something called portfolio. Portfolio is nothing but a bigger affinity to systems. So what we had done is there was about 3 weeks of due diligence was done to understand the systems. If a large enterprise is there, one of the big things that happens is you get used to doing what you're doing. and only when such a big change comes, you kind of say you start having an inventory of it. So you'll not believe there was no inventory at all. So it took 3 weeks to kind of get an inventory of all the applications, and then they understood that they had 400 odd applications.
Oh, wow.
And which was managed by 450 people. And some of them were BAU and some of them were keeping the lights on.
Okay.
They were also, some of them were change the business. So kind of created that portfolio. Big challenges I would say is, one was the skill sets. Given that there were more than 30 years they were in the business, in the industry, being a young company, getting that kind of a deep skill sets was extremely hard. And also not just that, now we keep calling that E-shaped engineer, T-shaped engineer, right? At that point in time, it was not there. If a person is a Java engineer, that person was only Java. that person will not know Informatica, they'll not know all the other technologies, right?
So maybe that's why they had one person per application.
So when the contract was written out, the contract was based on the number of incidents. The whole volume game was based on incidents. So if you have a volume game based on incidents, you don't look at the varying technologies, varying skills. That was the biggest thing that challenge that we kind of encountered. And the way was very ingenious. What we said is, we created a portfolio of people. So some people will be deeper into one technology, and so at that point in time, that cross-functional model of working was at a portfolio level. See, rather than saying everybody knows everything, and we kind of created that at a later point in time. But we said no, we will, rather than saying we'll go and recruit somebody who knows this and that and this, we said no, we will do that. And the next big challenge was getting that kind of a knowledge in a 3-month period. So we created there was a structure called primary knowledge transfer, secondary knowledge transfer, and then we also had something called primary support and secondary support. What we said is, we will shadow that person who's going to take over and then giving it. And while it looks very jazzy on paper, it was extremely hard, because these are jobs that you're talking about. If a person is giving knowledge to another person, it doesn't mean that person is going to be employed. So the worst part was the human part of it, they had completely ignored. They said we will take care of it later, because the check or the bonus of the CIO was dependent on this transition going out on time. So he was only focused on getting the transition smooth. He didn't look at the human part of it. So then as a change manager or transition manager, we helped him carve out, saying that no, give the information. I think it is important for understanding whether you're going to be with the organization or not, so that people can plan for it. So once that happened, and they also understood that we were trying to help them, the transition became a lot more smoother. I wouldn't still say that it was completely smooth in terms of incidents, and if let's say 3 years experienced person, when they get a call that the whole banking transaction is not going out in the middle of the night, 1 o'clock, we are not adapted to. So a lot of times we have had people who have put their phone on silent, and so a lot of those coaching, training, mentoring and all happened, but those were easier to manage, because there was enthusiasm to do the right thing, and I think those were things that lot of small lessons we learned later, but those were smaller challenges to come up with compared to the skills and the actual technology people part of it.
Yeah, very interesting. So particularly this challenge, which I've heard from others also, is getting the support of the people from whom you're actually taking over.
Exactly.
So are there instances where whether yourself or in your team, wherever, where initially probably there was a very cold kind of a relationship, but through the transition, you actually become good friends?
That I want to talk about one particular person who was a Russian origin person. He actually felt that his job is on fire. I was saying. See, it took first month. During the transition, he said, read this document. It was very friendly outward, but when you actually go and see the system, this system and the document was not correlating.
Okay.
And the worst part was getting access in a financial organization is very, very hard. So you find you don't know what you don't know. So it's like a huge matrix. You go into one door, you open it, and you find that there are 3 more doors. So it keeps on changing. So it was very. It was not outwardly hostile, but there are things that are unsaid.
Yeah.
So once he found out that he is going to become an architect, and he's going to be retained into the system to manage the change, he realized that unless he helps this team of 8 people become successful, he doesn't have to take the late night calls.
Yeah.
He's this is over multiple conversations. He realized that he has to make this successful. I think once he realized that if it is in his interest to make it successful, we found that transformation happened very, very quickly. He said, okay, try this. It's a lot more easy. I think I found that very good. Another transformation that I found was there was in another group called Cash. There, and even if and it was the other way around, they were not going to be retailed. At least that's what was the initial gut. So we could not finish it in 3 months. So we said, no, this is not something that we can do it. So we actually did it a complete code. We did a refactoring of the whole code, looked at it rather than depending on others. And then they actually started seeing us taking the calls, it was called incidents that point, incidents, problem tickets and everything.
Right.
Then they said, okay, it's okay to give them some part of it. So we kind of started coexisting. It's no longer that company this and the internal employees. We said no, we'll do coexist. And some of the repetitive tasks came to us. And, it is hard, but transition is always hard. And migration, transition, both are extremely hard things to do. But sometimes you have to do it to go to the next level.
So the complement of what you spoke now, but you did mention that your team members would put their phones on silent and things like that. One common hesitation that I hear from most developers, particularly those who are in the early stages of career, is that they always want to work on the latest technologies.
Right.
So how did you address aspects to get the team to actually deliver on whatever technologies you took over?
So the good part about this is we had mainframe. Anything right now these days, anything with respect to Java is a legacy, and you have if you're working in Scalar and cloud, it's a latest. So at that point in time, it was Java versus mainframe, and mainframe was, thankfully, the base of mainframe was very less. It was about 30% of the mainframe one, and the organization that I was working for used to have specific training for the mainframe folks. And the good part about them is at that point in time, that incentive was, if you know this technology, you are likely to be placed in a onshore hub. So that was a big thing. So it kind of gave them motivation that, hey, if you do this, I'll get a different kind of promotions and all of that. So, and people were also not rubbing it and saying that, hey, this is not latest. Sometimes those are the bigger problems, not necessarily the work in itself. Because if you look at it, their work in mainframe, they are actually handling tons of millions of data. Even a small mistake has a huge effect. So, while Java used to be more of a front-end application, while it may look cool and jazzy, but the complexity was a lot lesser. So sometimes you have to just say which part is the more complex one and help them realize. Because the reason why mainframe is and still is, actually after 20 years it's still very popular, is because of its data processing capabilities, right? So I think that's how we kept them motivated and on point.
So I'm probably jumping back and forth in time. When you engage with teams in your agile coaching, in a way, is that also transition management in terms of the mindsets of people?
I used to think like that. Now I have become a model of saying it's a 2 levels of transformation has to happen. You're not. I mean, transition is from one person to another. This is transformation is you're actually changing within. The Carol Dweck actually talks about a mindset, right? In a mindset, you can have a learning mindset or a fixed mindset. See, you have to have a shift from a fixed mindset to a learning mindset or a. I think that kind of a mindset transformation has to happen, and it has to happen in two levels. One is the personal level.
Yeah.
So to say, okay, I have to learn. For me to even be successful, that I have to learn. And as a group, I mean, because in Agile coaching, one of the things that is biggest thing is the change doesn't happen if only one person changes. It has to happen. Everybody changes.
Yeah.
Because I have seen teams who go 2 steps forward and 3 steps back.
Oh,
because
okay.
if either a leadership comes and gives some anti-patterns, like let's say saying, there is a sprint planning would have happened, and now say, no, I need 3 or 4 more things to happen.
Okay.
So how much ever commitment we talk about, if you have such outwardly anti-patterns that keep coming, then you are actually going back. So that kind of that entire ecosystem or the group level transformation is also another thing that I keep watching for. Because what happens is if you it cannot coexist in an island.
Yeah.
It's a continuum.
Right.
And it's very hard to see it, but when you observe, of course, as agile coach, 80% of the time what you do is you observe. So you observe and you take notes and understand how they are all working, and then explain to them. Many times I have seen people are very surprised that such small changes are being noted.
Okay.
And moment they understand that they have not really intentionally doing it without their own, subconsciously they've been doing it, and they start understanding or bringing that awareness into them. Many times I have actually being a coach is very you don't actually ask them to do some change. I keep talking about transformation that happens, right? Most of the time I don't do anything. I just bring awareness to them.
Okay.
Once you bring that awareness to them, a lot of the change happens automatically. It's almost it's like breathing air. It just happens.
Okay. Nice. So you spoke about transition and transformation. Transition of people, person to person, or as a project, and the transformation in teams. But having been a maker yourself, or an individual contributor, then being a manager who had a team and all that, now that you're a coach, what has been your own personal journey of transformation or transition?
This is a very good question. In fact, the whole change happened when I didn't realize that during the change that happened. But now when I often start coaching, I tell the story. So sometimes coaches are considered the superheroes and not necessarily something that we have never done flaws. So I tell them that all of us have flaws, and it's this is a few years back, almost 7-8 years back, and I was leading a very large program. We had about 120 people with 40 people onshore, and the rest of them developers and testers at offshore. And we had 40 people onshore and the rest of them at offshore. And we also had the client in Chennai. Okay. So what had happened is we were also doing one of the coolest program in the whole business unit. Because most of the other units were doing maintenance, while this was a big development program. And it also had a nicer way of saying, okay, from a 12-step process to a 3-step process. At that point in time, it was not called machine learning, but it was like a lot of it was intelligence added into the system. So it was a very cool thing. So when I got onboarded, there's lots of eyes on me, and it's like, oh, cool, great, let's get started and stuff. I never questioned the whole process. And I got in, they said, oh, you know what, this is Agile program, and Agile is different iterations are happening, and the first iteration is going to be 6 weeks. 6 weeks is a development iteration. No, 6 weeks is an analysis iteration, and which is happening onshore, and the documents will be handed over to offshore, and that's a 3-month process. And within the 3 months, you're doing development and unit testing, and that is in fixed price.
Okay.
And then you're going to do end-to-end testing. So it's this kind of a waves. This iteration is going to happen 3 or 4 times till all the entire systems are done. So it was when we got started. As I said, it was like blinkers were on. Like, oh, we have to do this. So first is the big thing as a delivery manager. You have to get the right people. All our focus was getting people onboarded. Getting them. Do they have the right technology? All those questions are on. We never questioned this whole concept of agile. Saying, oh, this is all agile, so it's iterations, and so there was so much of handover and handoff. So the analysis was done at onshore, and it was just being almost 40 documents were handed over as part of the first one. They said each document has a separate process. Now it's very common and called microprocessor, microservices, right? That was each one was a separate service. So and when we did this as a fixed price, what we found was that we created a plan for everything, and then we found that the dates were not aligning. It was extremely hard as an agile program, and one of the things that they kept saying is that they want a CI. It used to be called SCM that time, source code management. Source code management. Oh yeah, we will check in the code. That is all was known. So we didn't. At least personally, as a delivery manager, I did not understand the requirement for a CI/CD. See, if you don't understand how the best practice works, everything else looks very documented. Oh, this is another process. Okay, we'll do it. No problem. We are all at that point in time. I said yes, no problem. We can do it. So when the integration started happening, they said, where is the source code management? We said, yeah, it's there. We're all checking the code. So you didn't hear this. Everything is has to be integrated every day. I was like, what? So more and more we found the actual development got over by July of that year, and then it didn't go into production till the next August. It took a year because more and more testing started happening. They found out that there are a lot more systems that were outside focus, which needed to be integrated than what was originally found. Then there was like, oh, which document didn't say this? There were by the end of it, there was like more than 125 documents that were created of analysis.
Was that also under SCM?
And that was checked into a document management system. But obviously that is not code, so it didn't even occur to me that it should be part of the. So it was a hugely so many hours of late night hours to kind of bring it all together, and that's when we kept saying that this is agile, and then there was one wise gentleman who came and said, what do you mean by agile? They said, we have teams, iterations. I said, this is iterations. We are doing iterations. We are not doing fully. We are doing iterations, and each person knows what they are doing and all of that. I said, no, that's not what it is. And I said, no, we are actually doing reviews every month. End of the month, we are actually doing a review. So more and more, then he came and explained to me how some of these other systems were working and how better systems can work. That's when suddenly the light bulbs goes on. Saying, oh, we understood it wrongly. It's no longer about whether a document is getting handed over or not. In the initial place that person was doing analysis, developers and testers should have been one team and doing together. When you don't realize that when you do it, then I asked myself, how come I didn't know this? You ask over and over, and then I said, not much can be done about it. So now I go and help organizations to start seeing that blinkers right then and there, rather than looking at it as a blinkers, and tell them slowly, saying that okay, this is how it can be done, this is how it should be done, and help them understand their own anti-patterns and all of that. I think I often wish somebody had done this for me. So that's when I was like, who could do that? So it's not my manager, because my manager knew lesser about agile than me. So it can't be a person within the hierarchy.
Okay.
There has to be a person who's outside the hierarchy, who has influence, who has wisdom, probably some level of courage to tell it as it has to be told. Because a lot of times if the things are not told in the right time, it becomes too late, and reputations go for a toss, and lots of things go for a toss, because in the end of the day, all those night hours, all those things, it's not me, right? It's also the tons of people who work for them. It's while as a software industry we have come to agree that late nights is a given, right? It doesn't have to be. A lot of it is about prudent planning and some level of foreseeing some of these things together. Why do you want to wait in a long Hosur road signal? Well, you can actually do a roundabout and have a better ways of doing it. See, I think that is what I made me go through this transformation. A short question, long answer. Sorry.
Okay. I don't know how it fits in, but it came to me in my mind, so I'm going to ask that.
Sure.
See, from being a juggler of a lot of things, when we say a team should focus, they should all have one goal, common goal, shared goal, everything that Agile talks about. So when you are interacting with the teams that you coach, I'm sure that now you tell them all this.
Yeah, right.
But as a homemaker and a mom, you necessarily have to juggle a lot of things. How do you find that transition, which is probably happening every day? Also, this is one of the series that we are hoping to have with women in IT around Women's Day and all that. A woman's perspective on how do you all manage this? I'm always fascinated.
Okay, so I have seen this work-life balance as a person who's walking on a tightrope and juggler. It's often said that I have not really found myself in such a situation. So I read something called a life grid. When probably 18 years back. This was a book that was suggested by my husband at that point. Husband saying, a person needs to have all the realms of life. Should be a family, friends, spiritual, fitness, and all of that. And the way I find it easy solace is some weeks I've always found myself leaning or having to spend more time at work. So it means that the attention or time I spend and attention is much lesser in other realms. And once you have this kind of a grid, your own personal grid, you say, okay, this week is okay, and the next week you should probably balance it out, because this is one of the ways in which I got over my working mom's guilt. When I was a young mother, this guilt used to eat me alive, saying, whenever I'm at home, I feel as if I should have just gone and worked something, and then when I'm at work, it's like, oh my God, I'm not doing something for the child. So then the family definitely plays a big part in terms of helping them. And the other big part that I have found it very useful is making the child and the rest of the family independent. They don't have to be dependent on you to make yourself become you are a more valuable person. More and more they become more get themselves independent, and you're being a safety net there. You as a mom and from a person who takes care of the house, I am always there. But it's not that I have to be there every minute. I just have to get my CICD, we have the safety nets created, right? It's not that every time there'll be a problem that could happen, but you create that, having emergency contacts and all of that in place. So I don't find myself a juggler. I find myself more. Sometimes I think there is always a focus is given more at workplace. Sometimes there's more time that has to be spent here, and there is a good awareness within workplace also that women need to do that. So I think that not just the family support. I think at office also, if there is a lot of help. In fact, one of my Scrum Masters today morning message saying that, hey, my daughter has a has got a broken hand.
Oh.
So it's okay. It means that I will help their ceremonies in the day. So or it's also that there's a understanding within the team that somebody else will step in. So that it also helps to be in agile environment because self-organized. You don't depend on one person. So the stress is not that high. I think that helps in my perspective.
Yeah, very nicely put. Because usually they say that whenever you say you want to balance something, there is always a conflict.
Yeah.
And then what you've done, I think, is to have each one slotted properly. And then as long as they get attention, it is multi-processing and
Yeah.
multitasking.
Yeah.
Very nice. So continuing on both these themes together.
Yeah.
You did mention that you got support at work also.
Yeah.
Now, where do you think there are opportunities for colleagues, to support women employees or women colleagues?
I will take that question in two parts. First question is around women developers and in software and non-developer women software. So the former needs a lot more support because technology constantly is changing. So if I knew let's say a Java 8 and I have to move to a Scalar or a Scala or a Ruby on Rails, it needs a lot of time to learn. That time often has to come from a personal time, and personal time is not a given thing for women.
Yeah.
I think one of the teams that I am coaching, what they have done is they have created a very nice structure of creating a 20% learning time.
Okay.
So I think that is fantastic, and it is not something is only in this organization. A lot of organizations, including Google, gives a 10%, 20% personal time. So it is very prudent for everybody, and more importantly with women employees to use that and capitalize to learn. What is the technology that they have to learn, so that they don't become taking a back step. And the second part of it, right, other non-soft developer women employees, I think there is support in the organization. I think what happens is many times I'm in the camp of Sheryl Sandberg. We don't lean in.
Okay.
We have to take initiatives. Unless women take initiatives, you don't grow. In terms of, I'm not talking about the corporate ladder, but personally, you have to be in a position to, experiment. Because if you experiment, not only are you seen as a person who can bring teams, bring people together, being able to break the barriers, because we don't work in them. As a woman, I don't think we have this concept of a barrier.
Okay.
It's a lot easier to work, without that, because you would have never seen a woman go alone anywhere. We like to take people together. So it comes naturally. I think that power they have to understand and keep doing it. Because sometimes this fear of failure kind of pulls folks back. I think that is another thing that if organizations want to do it, I think that is another area. The organization can consciously ask them to take those initiatives. Because it's success breeds success, right? Once you have done it, you know that you can do it. So you keep trying different things.
See, we had one of our earlier episodes on what the guest called as natural software engineering.
Wow, okay.
Inspired by nature. I know that you also like to do things more naturally, whether it is organic food or the personal practices and so on.
Yep.
So, do you consider software as something that is artificially created and none of those approaches would work? Or are there ways in which, since you said as an example that you normally find women having others around, and then they're a natural unifying force, or they're able to get the support of a team, or mobilizing that energy and all that. How can some of those natural strengths of women be leveraged for creating successful teams or successful organizations?
See, I'm of the camp that nothing is artificial, right? Artificial in the sense, you have software to avoid repeatable tasks. Earlier, we had, we moved away from, having bullock carts to the trucks. We never said that it is artificial, right? It's a natural. Software is also very natural progression. So there are several traits that all of us have, and some of my coaches, I used to do something called a strengths finder as a book to understand what are their strengths and can you leverage their strengths. I was earlier speaking about awareness, right? Sometimes you may know that these are my strengths, but having that kind of clear model saying that these are the strengths and amplifying those strengths. There's a concept of underdog, right? If you don't do this, movies say this. You try harder even if you're not there. I keep thinking that if you have a strength, keep trying better on it. Then it's a matter of from 90% you have to keep trying to make it better and better. That actually brings retains that natural order of teams working together. And some of the key things that I have seen people coming naturally is that team formation is a very good characteristic. Not everybody is very easy to do. So, for example, as a Scrum Master, while you may think that Scrum Master is just a role and responsibility, anybody can do it. It's a servant leadership is a acquired trait. You can't say, okay, I have been a delivery manager for so long, I can do this. It doesn't work that way. You have to be humble. You have to be curious why somebody is doing that. I think that if we can even imbibe, and if you can see if there is a natural curiosity with somebody, naturally they are looking at learning better, improving better. I think those are traits to look for, and they can be amplified or strengthened to make the whole livelihood of software better. And one of the things that I am trying very hard now is humor. So it's extremely hard to bring liveliness in the teams, right? So you run a training session, it becomes very boring. So you have multiple exercises, and so once they go through a 1 hour workshop, and it's they laugh as well as they learn something at a very relaxed manner. Things actually start getting enforced a lot easier. We find that rather than a classroom training, recently we have done a research within the company saying 86% of the people, of our respondents, said they want to do more practical training, which is and coupled with Udemy kind of online one. So online they want to get the theoretical concepts, but actual one we want human interaction. They say, okay, what worked? What are the challenges? How did you come past it? So those are the big things. Those are the real life stories that we want to learn.
So, talking of coaching, since you also mentioned humor, do you have any stories where you, let's say, share some principles, practices, whatever, but somebody tries it to some disastrous or hilarious effects?
I immediately I can't say this. So one of my coaching, the teams whom I was coaching, they were planning to go for lunch. I said, "Oh, you didn't call the coach. Coach kudadu." Very
So in Tamil that means
coach should not get angry. I think some of the things that you have to try getting humor in every small things. It's a very nice, nice way to have humor all the time. If you have some of the times I try, using self-deprecating humor. Oh, Gayatri doesn't understand, but still, can you explain? It's easier to, even if, let's say, I sense that there are 3 or 4 people who have not understood. If I put myself in a saying, you please explain to me because I don't understand. Dumb it down for me. That is like a self-deprecating humor in a very nice fashion. And if you have established trust, the team, they don't find a problem. So in that you actually make others also understand and get better out of it. So once one person asks, it's just a matter of other person can also ask. You're not, so those kind of habits, and if you keep on inculcating, that forms more high-performing teams in my view.
Yeah, that's interesting. So as a coach, if we get bored, I think maybe we can try to be stand-up comedians.
Hopefully. I like that, side profession they're saying. You're saying. I should watch Aditya TV more often. The Aditya is a humor-based TV channel.
The next topic is probably going to require a separate episode, which is life as an IT couple.
Okay, definitely.
While we'll do that sometime, maybe a quick brief on again. Have you tried using any of your experience or these management models and things like that at home?
Okay.
Which probably your husband also was aware of, and then so you kind of either made it easy or difficult.
Okay, a couple of things that we, when I was younger, we tried this is, having a annual appraisal.
Dangerous area.
Dangerous. But it not in a fashion of reprimanding or anything. It's more of growing. At the end of the day, as a couple, you're spending so much of time, right? You have to spiritually grow. You can't spiritually grow if you have if you personally are not growing or together are not growing. So that's something that we tried. We normally do it around our anniversary.
Okay.
We try that, but we have tried using visual information radiators on our the fridge. So we have to buy this, we have to buy that. So those are things that come easy. And we also tried, beginning of the weekend, we look at, we don't stand up in our daily stand up, but at least we know who's doing what. So we create a plan because all of us have our too many commitments. And I think those are some of the practices. And of course, our calendars, we are always in sync. So we know that we have to check in, that commitment of checking in is there. But apart from that, I think as an IT couple, some of the biggest thing that I have personally know is that the other person is there, but you have to be on your own to be able to manage or sustain. Because as a technology, you constantly have to travel. That's a given thing. So you how much are you able to manage on your own? And then any help that comes is a big thing. And my husband also keeps looking at it like that. Can he do things on his own? Right from packing to booking to everything. Can he do things on his own? And then any help comes, he's very happy. I think that kind of a model works a lot better. Earlier and all, in my in a family, even the water used to be given in the hand by the wife, and I think we have come past that. At least personally, we think it's a lot easier to say, okay, that person, that work, it's easier to work. I think I would be interested to hear what my husband says. I'm sure he has.
We'll not play him this.
Definitely not.
Good. So it's good talking to you, Gayatri, and I'm sure our listeners would have a lot of questions, or particularly some of the resources that you mentioned. What you want? As we get questions, definitely we'll share it, and then you can respond to them.
I'm very, very happy to be the part of this. I wanted to also say that PM Power Consulting has provided me this kind of a platform to be, doing things on my own and able to, balance the work and the rest of my life also, and has provided that kind of a frame of mind along with the great coaches to share your, the thought processes and mindfulness and all of that. I think I'm happy and happy to answer any questions, and I hope the listeners like it.
Thank you. If you like the show and would like to share your experiences with the community, or know someone else who might want to do that, please get in touch with us at podcast@pm-powerconsulting.com. That is podcast@pm-powerconsulting.com.
Please rate the show on Podchaser, Stitcher, iTunes, or any other podcast client that you find us on. Please also share our episodes with your friends and others in your network. If you or anyone you know would like to be featured on our show, do write to us at this email address: podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.